As the Schumer shutdown continues, President Donald Trump made one of the greatest comparisons to the Democrats that anyone's ever heard.
It's almost like a kamikaze attack by them. You want to know the truth? This is like a kamikaze attack. They almost, they have nothing to lose. They've lost the elections. They've lost the presidential election in a landslide. I saw the other day where Kamala said this was a very close election. This was one of the biggest sweeps that anybody's ever had. Won the popular vote by millions, won the electoral college by a massive amount. They said, if I got 270, that would be great. But I got, I think, 312 or 315.
It was a massive victory by President Donald Trump over Kamala Harris, and the Democrats don't have any power in the White House, and they don't have any power in the Congress, and they don't have any power in the Supreme Court. So what do? They point their planes toward the deck of the United States of America, and they fly right into it, causing a massive explosion and trying to sink it into the ocean. The only difference between a kamikaze attacker and a Democrat attacker is that you don't have to watch kamikaze pilots do press conferences every single day after they've done their attacks. And I love that he compared the kamikazes to the Democrats while talking about Kamala Harris, because fun fact, kamikaze is her favorite drink when she goes out to the bar. But the reporters wanted to know, look, you've threatened to eliminate programs. You've threatened to cut the size of the government. Have you actually looked at things that you're going to take care of? Are there line items that are ready to go?
President, have you identified programs to eliminate under this shutdown?
Oh, sure.
Which ones?
We have a lot. I'm not going to tell you, but we'll be announcing it pretty soon. But we have a lot of things that we're going to eliminate and permanently eliminate. One of the things that we have is some advantage, you could say. But because of the shutdown, which I think they made a big mistake, we're able to take out billions and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. And they've handed it, on a silver platter. And, Russell Vogt, he's a serious person, very serious person. And he's sitting there and he's getting ready to cut things. And this is something that was handed to us by, I assume, Schumer. I just don't know if Schumer has any power anymore. I look at your leadership. I don't know who to speak to. I'll tell you what, I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before.
Yeah, that's President Donald Trump saying it's weird because here we are, we're trying to get the government back open, but everybody on the other side of the aisle claims that they're in power. AOC claims that she's in charge. Nancy Pelosi claims that she's in charge. Chuck Schumer claims that he's in charge, and Hakeem Jeffries is standing around wearing a sombrero, not actually claiming that he's in charge, but technically he should be because he is the minority leader in the House of Representatives. And Donald Trump said, look, until they figure out who's going to take charge on that side, there's very little we can do.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before, and they're claiming to be leaders. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think if you don't know, by the way, that's I'm pretty sure that's Ilhan Omar. I'm like 99.9% sure that's who he's talking about. But the Democrats don't have any leadership. They have these crazy demands. They're all hell bent on keeping the government shut down so they can protect illegal immigrants. And Chuck Schumer, who is the leader of the party, he's the highest ranking Democrat in office, is scared poopless that he's going to get primaried by a bartender from the Bronx. And therefore, he's making sure military men and women are not getting their paychecks. So Chuck Schumer can continue to get his. That's exactly what this boils down to. And we're all feeling the heat. Delays at the airport, the military men and women not being able to pay their bills. We have James Blair, who is the one of the deputy chiefs of staff in charge of the shutdown and domestic policy, was on the news yesterday saying, look, it's going to be tight. People are going to start having to tighten their belt buckles because of the Democrat shutdown.
We're going to have a pay period on the 8th where some people are going to miss a partial paycheck already because there's a couple of pay periods in the federal government that's already come and gone. And then on the 15th, basically everyone's going to miss a paycheck. The pain is going to increase on the American people. And the president has really tried to mitigate the painful effects as much as he can. But there comes a point where it's beyond our control. The accounts are running dry. We are running out of cash. They have to fund the government. And so we're just asking them to get on with it, stop inflicting pain on the American people, and let's get back to work.
And of course, one of the big reasons why they're inflicting pain on Americans is because they want to help non-Americans. They're inflicting pains on Americans because not only, and I want you to think about this, not only are the Democrats now saying we are going to stop paying hardworking American citizens, but we're going to not pay those hardworking American citizens until they agree to have their tax dollars go to fund healthcare for illegal aliens. It's a really bizarre plan. I'm not really sure how that's going to play in the midterms. And it seems like the Democrats, in an effort to try to gain more power, are just going to continue to destroy their standing with the American people.
The Democrats do want illegals to have free health care in this country. They have set up programs that allow free health care for illegals in this country. They want us to repeal. One of their demands to reopen the government is to repeal our common sense health care reforms that we did over the summer. You know what one of those is? We, for the first time, said we're going to make sure that dead people, deceased people, are removed from the Medicaid rolls so that criminals can stop stealing their Social Security numbers and illegally getting their benefits, which was happening. It cost the federal government billions of dollars a year. The Democrats don't want us to do that. They don't think that's common sense. I mean, you wonder why health care is so expensive? It's because the Democrats want waste, fraud, and abuse. They want illegal immigrants to have free health care. They want criminals to be able to steal. They want insurance companies to get extra subsidies and be able to inflate their profits. That's what we're fighting against.
And that is, it's a weird platform, but the Democrats are weird people. And President Donald Trump said we're already feeling the pinch with, for example, delays at the airport and the air traffic control system, which is going to be affected. It always is. When you have air traffic controllers who are not getting paid, what happens is they don't go to work. They call in sick. They take PTO. They say, all right, well, if you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to traffic the air. And if the air traffic controllers aren't there, that's when you see serious delays, and we're already experiencing it.
They're all Democrat delays. There are delays at the airport. That's standard. And again, this is something that every day we put forth a bill. It's just a continuation. It's a very simple thing to sign and very simple to do. And I really think that these are people that I think they have nothing to lose. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is.
Yeah. And that is these statements, by the way, President Donald Trump made with Mark Carney from Canada. He was there. The Prime Minister of Canada was there to talk about trade and other various aspects. And of course, Donald Trump couldn't get out of the press conference without making a 51st state joke.
And I'm running out of time, but this is many respects the most important.
The merger of Canada and the United States.
That wasn't where I was going.
Yeah, of course it was. You don't know where you're going. President Donald Trump knows where he's going, though. He's going to Illinois. Speaking of states, the great state of Illinois with the not so great city of Chicago. And President Donald Trump, there's boots on the ground. There's military and National Guard troops on the ground in Chicago. They're at a staging area. They're ready to go. They're ready to bring peace back to Chicago after the murders and the crime has ravaged that city, made it one of the deadliest cities on the planet, not just in the country, but on the planet. And J.B. Pritzker, the governor, and Brandon Johnson, the mayor, have not only ignored the problem, but exacerbated the problem, have fought President Donald Trump on restoring law and order, and told their police chief not to send units to help ICE agents. If crimes are happening in Chicago, the order by the Chicago PD is don't help. Stand down. And yes, we know the press conference. There were lies being told about orders not being made, but we actually have the recordings. We're not going to play them again because you've probably heard them by now. But Donald Trump said, "Look, we're not going to stop. We're not going to surrender Chicago to criminals." Chicago
is a great city where there's a lot of crime, and if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple. They probably had 50 murders in Chicago over the last 5, 6, 7 months. Many people were shot. And then the governor gets up and he says, well, we can handle it. They can't handle it. They don't know what they're doing. The mayor is grossly incompetent. He's at a 4% approval rating in Chicago. He's at a 4%, lowest approval rating, lower than even de Blasio had, which is hard to believe in New York. I thought de Blasio would always maintain that record, but the Chicago guy is even lower. So I think that we want safe cities. If you look at D.C., you would right now, Mark, you could go out, take your family out to dinner. You could walk right down the middle of the street. There is no crime in D.C. When I got here, this place was a raging hellhole where people would come from Canada, people would come from other places and end up getting shot. Nobody's being shot. The National Guard's been unbelievable.
A raging hellhole. Donald Trump, when I got here, this place was a raging hellhole. And now, Mark, you could walk down the middle of the street. I wouldn't walk down the middle of the street because traffic's still pretty bad. But you get the idea. You get the idea. What Donald Trump did to Washington, D.C., he now wants to do to Chicago because the murder rate is outstanding. In fact, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General for the United States of America, she was on Capitol Hill at a one of those. They're called like oversight committee meetings, but really it's just partisan politics. Democrats trying to trip her up and blame her and accuse her of things that she hasn't done. And I'm not a huge Pam Bondi fan, but Donald Trump picked her and she's doing a job. And she did a great job yesterday handing it to the Democrats, bringing the receipts and saying the murder rate in Chicago is substantial.
Your city has a murder rate 5 times higher than New York's. 571 homicides last year. If you were serious about protecting your people, you would be asking this administration for help. You're saying that we're coming into your state and your city. We're there to help make America safe and Illinois safe, whether or not you want to.
And she was talking to Ranking Member Dick Durbin, who is from Illinois and who is part of the problem and has done little to nothing to help Chicago and Chicagoans and Illinoisans. And Pam Bondi, I think she may have had a cold or something because she had a very low tolerance for any kind of BS. Her BS tolerance was, she was not taking anything from anybody. And she stuck it to Dick Durbin and made some very common sense accusations.
The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Donald Trump. I mean, that's one of the greatest lines I've ever heard from an attorney general or anybody. But also, unfortunately, it's true. The Democrat hatred for Donald Trump surpasses their desire to do the job they were hired to do by their constituents. They don't care about keeping Chicagoans safe, and the people of Chicago are begging them for help. The people of Chicago are saying, please, for the love of God, we're dying out here. Crime is horrible. We hired you to do a job and you're not doing it. And when Donald Trump says he wants to do it, you're trying to shut him out and sue him and attack him. What's wrong with you people? Incidentally, on a side note, she also stuck it to Blumenthal, Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, after he tried to accuse her of impropriety.
I do have a question. In the merger that took place,
which merger? You've listed many.
Involving American Express GBT. I understand that Brian Ballard, longtime backer and head of the law firm where you work, was instrumental in lobbying the Justice Department to drop that lawsuit. It was dismissed, so it's not subject to a court review. What conversations did you have with Mr. Ballard?
Senator Blumenthal, I cannot believe that you would accuse me of impropriety when you lied about your military service.
I am
you
not
lied.
asking
You admitted you
I am
lied
not
to be
accusing you
elected
of
a U.S. senator.
impropriety.
You
I'm asking
lied.
you
How
about
dare you? I'm a career prosecutor.
with Mr.
Don't you
Ballard,
ever challenge my integrity.
had
I have
apparently-
abided by every ethics standard. Do not question my ability to be fair and impartial as Attorney General and anything
You'll
with
answer that
my
question to
former
another of my
firm,
colleagues.
Ballard Partners.
Thank you.
Yeah, that basically, that's Richard Blumenthal, not expecting to be called out for his stolen valor, which, by the way, back in 2010, he ran for Senate against Linda McMahon, who's now the Education Secretary, pardon me, and he lied. He said he served in Vietnam. And then all of these people in his supposed platoon came out and said, we never even heard of this guy. Then it turned out he didn't serve in Vietnam. He served as a reservist during Vietnam. And it's something that almost cost him the election. If he weren't running in Connecticut, which is a deep blue state, he probably would have lost. Donald Trump was not happy that Richard Blumenthal went after Pam Bondi, so he took to Truth Social to remind everybody, quote, sanctimonious Richard Da Nang Dick Blumenthal, perhaps the biggest joke in the United States Senate, is at it again. Dick lied until the midpoint of his political career, convincing everyone, in particular the fake news media, that he was a great war hero who lived on the precipice of death in the jungles of Vietnam. He would talk about his life in the military in almost every speech, in particular the death-defying dangers he faced in his many years' fight for freedom while in Vietnam. He stated that the battles were violent and long, but there was no going back. And then it happened. Blumenthal was found out to be a fraud. The soldiers in his so-called platoon came forward and said that they had no idea who this guy was. He was revealed, broke down, and admitted, tears flowing from his eyes, that he lied. A whopper, one that lasted 20 years. This guy shouldn't even be in the U.S. Senate. It should be investigated and justice should be sought. Right now, there is a congressman sitting in prison for lying about his past during a campaign. Well, those lies were nothing compared to those of Richard Da Nang Dick Blumenthal, perhaps the greatest phony in the history of the United States Senate. He should be allowed to speak no longer. Donald Trump wants his vocal cords removed permanently, which I'm a big fan of. I agree. Also, what's with the Botox? Can somebody tell Dick Blumenthal, enough with the Botox. You're like 80 years old. Start acting like it. But look, there is a lot of issues going on in Chicago. There's a lot of issues with the leadership. And Todd Blanche, the deputy attorney general, he went to Chicago because of what's been going on with the police department and because there is a concerted effort not just to not help ICE agents, but to actually detract ICE agents or impede ICE agents from doing their jobs.
When the director and I saw that and the attorney general saw that report, that's when we booked a flight to Chicago. And so, of course, we have to look into that. And it is so disturbing. And Sean, this is not an indictment of the local cops. To a man and woman, they want to help us. They want to be there protecting their citizens. This is an indictment of the leadership, of the mayor, of the governor. And they are stopping law enforcement doing their jobs. And imagine being a law enforcement officer who's not getting paid because the Democrats will not open this government, being boxed in by multiple cars, and learning later that leadership told the law enforcement to back off and not respond. That's what happened in Chicago, allegedly. And you better believe that we're looking into it. That should never happen in this country. It should never happen in Chicago. It shouldn't happen in any major city. And we're gonna, if it did happen, there will be consequences.
Hopefully that is true. Hopefully there will be consequences for whomever in Chicago, whomever in Illinois gave those orders to stand down the police, to not help ICE, and to keep the criminals in charge. And of course, it's not just what's happening in Chicago. Portland rages on too. And Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was in Portland meeting with the mayor, who met with and she met with certain similar resistance to any aid from President Donald Trump to bring peace to the people of Portland.
The chief asked if I wanted to meet with the mayor, and I said absolutely. Came back and just met with the mayor, and I'm so extremely disappointed. He's continuing to play politics, did not commit to any of those promises, and said that he'd give me an answer by tomorrow. And I'm hopeful that he will. What I told him is that if he did not follow through on some of these security measures for our officers, we were going to cover him up with more federal resources, and that we were going to send 4 times the amount of federal officers here so that the people of Portland could have some safety. They could have some security. Today, Jesse, we went and got a sex offender off the streets here in Portland that had been violating minors, and we're going to bring him to justice. And this Portland mayor tried to brag about him making our streets safer. No, absolutely not. It is our federal CBP and ICE officers that are cleaning up this city, and every single day they're going to stay dedicated to doing that.
Yeah, here's how it works, Portland. We're going to send federal officers to help you clean up the mess. And if you resist, we're going to send more federal officer. We're going to cover you up with federal agents. That's Kristi Noem telling it like it is. Listen, there's so much more news we have to cover. And of course, there may be another vote. Probably not. But the government shutdown continues. We're going to see what happens. Maybe the cuts will begin. Maybe the furloughs will increase. Maybe Russ Vought will be unleashed with his scalpel on the federal budget. I'm very excited to see if Donald Trump can fulfill his promise of bringing us closer and closer to a balanced budget because of this opportunity that has been handed to him on a silver platter by the Democrats. Whatever happens today, we're going to be bringing it to you live at 1 p.m. Eastern time in our second daily podcast, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. You can also download and listen at your leisure. It continues to climb the charts, and we appreciate all of your support. If you're not yet listening to or subscribed to Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, it's really easy to do. Go to markkaye.com, MarkKaye.com. Click the big red button that says, I want the podcast. Get the podcast. Download, subscribe, listen, and enjoy.